Hello, and welcome to our Different Brains Speaker Series webinar on parenting with ADHD. My name is Mike Nickus, and I'm a team member at Different Brains, and I want to thank everyone for attending. Different Brains strives to encourage understanding and acceptance of individuals who have variations in brain function and social behaviors known as neurodiversity. We promote awareness through the production of a variety of neurodiverse media content, including our multiple web series, blogs, podcasts, movies, and documentaries, all available for free at differentbrains.org. All of our content is worked on by those in the mentorship program, through which we aid individuals in taking the first steps toward achieving their goals and finding their voice. To find more information or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit our website at differentbrains.org. Before we start, I want to invite everyone to send questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom or by putting questions in the chat box. This webinar will have live closed captioning generated by otter.ai. These can be controlled using the captions button on your Zoom dashboard. Now, I'm going to hand it over to our moderator for this evening, Brooke Whitfield-FATTOVICH.
Thank you, Mike. I am Brooke. I'm the moderator for tonight's webinar, ADHD and Parenting. So to begin, I would like to do a brief introduction with everybody, and please include how many children you have and their ages. I know we did do this with the last one, but just for the people who didn't get to watch that one, we'll just go through it again. And I can begin with this one. So I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I just started my practice this year, and I focus on women's infertility, pregnancy, postpartum. I'm also a PhD student, and I have two children, Shaden, who's 18, and I have Lily, who is about to be 16 months. So with the big age gap, I get to really reflect on how different parenting has been with these two kids. And I will pass it off to Lindsay.
Okay, so my name is Lindsay. I am a mom. Actually, I'm a single mom, and I have a 15-month-old daughter. And I am also a licensed mental health therapist. I am currently on leave from for completing my PhD. I just recently started my private practice, and I specialize in couples, families, and also those struggling with ADHD and perfectionism. And that's it.
Thanks, Lindsay. Let's go over to Brooke.
Hi, my name is Brooke SCHNITTMAN. I'm the founder of Coaching with Brooke, and I have a family of 5, and my husband, myself, my 2 stepsons are one big ADHD family, and then I have a 2.5-year-old toddler who might run in here in the middle of our session, who displays hyperactive ADHD symptoms. So we'll see about that. So yes, it's a bundle of fun.
Thanks, Brooke. B?
Hi, I am B. MOISE. I am a cognitive specialist as well as an ADHD and neurodivergent coach. And parenting coach. I do anything and everything pertaining to the neurodivergent ways of living. I have ADHD myself. I have ADHD hyperactive, which I am very proud of because I love it. It's what makes me me. I also have 11-year-old daughter who has ADHD and attentive, and I have a 12-year-old son who has autism. So we have a really beautifully combined ADHD neurodivergent home. I'm also an author. I forgot to say that last time because I have ADHD and I forget stuff. So I wrote 2 books. I have one called Our Neurodivergent Journey, which is basically my journey with parenting a child on the spectrum and all the wonderful things and tools I've learned in lessons. And I have another book coming out in a few weeks next month called The Neurodivergent Home, which is basically about the things that you need to do to live in a home with neurodivergent people, basically from decor to structure and organization. And I have another book coming out next year called Neurodiversity and Technology, which is basically about how we love tech, but sometimes tech doesn't necessarily love us because we have a highly addicted brain. So, I cover everything neurodivergent. So I'm an author, I'm a mom, but most importantly, I am just neurodivergently me. So.
Nice. I think I need some of your books, B. And Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am a primary therapist at a substance abuse treatment center for all women in Delray. I've worked in the substance abuse field for 10 years. I too am diagnosed with ADHD. I have a son, Camden. He's about to turn 4 months in a few days. So I am a new parent. So looking forward myself to this webinar to hear what the women have to say as I'm newly on this journey of parenthood myself.
Nice. Thanks, Stephanie. So we'll move on to the next question, which is basically if you could just share some of your ADHD story with us, and we can start with B on that one.
So I didn't know I had ADHD until grad school. And I discovered in grad school, but then I questioned it because I didn't realize the way that I processed the world and the way that I took information was unique and specific to my brain type. I thought everyone functioned this way. And I believed if you didn't function this way, you must be like superhuman or something, because there was no way for you not to be affected by all the senses or to be impacted by all the different things and, to not have the distractibility. It's also been a source of my strength. I hear, ADHD or neurodivergent is your superpower. It kind of is for me because it is the source of my energy. It's the thing that fuels me to do 50 billion projects. It's also the thing that keeps me from completing 50 billion projects. So it's understanding the balance of the two. So my journey with ADHD has been, discovering that I had it in grad school, understanding what it means, and, having a child on the spectrum where initially we thought was Einstein syndrome, but eventually we're like, oh, this is autism. And it's like, okay, this is just a different way of learning and discovering things. And how can I help him while also understanding the challenges that I face myself with task completion and initiation and all the different things that keeps me from doing. And I am a perfectionist by brain type, because I have yet to meet someone with ADHD who didn't have some kind of perfectionist, like if it's not perfect, it can't be done. So why start it if it's not going to be perfect? So, factoring that into myself, my parenting, learning about my daughter who has ADHD inattentive, which is different from hyperactive. I like to say, for me, inattentive is wanting to do all the things internally. Hyperactive is wanting to do all the things externally. So it's like one person's trying to touch all the things, the other person's trying to avoid all the things, and learning how to kind of meet in the middle. So that's like, another side of my ADHD journey.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, B. I love watching Lindsay's reactions when B is speaking because you can see she feels seen. She's like, you're saying all the things that I'm feeling. Lindsay, you can go next.
I feel like you just said everything perfectly. Exactly. Yeah, totally. So, my story is that I've known I had ADHD since I don't know. I feel like second, third grade, something around there. My mom is a retired psychologist, so I have had the DSM diagnostics statistical manual like on my lap, like literally since I could read, or before I could read, before I could talk or walk. But so in school, I've always was like speeding through everything. I was called Speedy Gonzalez always, and like I could learn the skill. If I got it, then I would do it. But I needed to just do it my way and do it really, really fast. And then if I was something that was hard for me, it was like, no, that's just can't do that. So it doesn't really matter. I won't even try. Just like the whole perfectionism thing. So I didn't try. So with this went on for forever. But I was diagnosed, I got some third, fourth grade. But I didn't do anything about it. It was just a diagnosis. And I don't think until I was around like 16, 17, applying for schools or like getting ready to apply to schools with like pre-SATs, where I then decided that maybe I wanted to go talk to a psychiatrist and possibly get on medication. I didn't want to actually be on medication. So like I ended up just asking for extra time on certain things, but it didn't actually work in my schools. So all of my trials and errors really just didn't end up working through it until honestly, I'd say almost forever, because my master's also did not want to ask for extra time, didn't want to ask for any didn't want the stigma. So yeah, I basically have all of the all of the things that B said. I'm very hyperactivity. I'm very hyperactive, but I'm also inattentive. I'm kind of like all of them in one, because I definitely sit there and I'm like daydreaming and I'm like, where am I and what's going on right now? But then I'm also obviously more towards the hyperactive as well. Yeah, so that's my story.
Thanks, Lindsay. Let's
No
go to
problem.
Stephanie.
My background with ADHD is it started as a child, a young child, grade school, a lot of behavioral issues. I was all over the place. And that continued it was hard to focus. It was hard to sit down and concentrate on things. That continued throughout adolescence and into college. It wasn't until I was going to be going to grad school to work in a doctorate program that I realized, if I want to see, what I can do to help with all of this. So I saw a neuropsychologist. I was diagnosed with ADHD. And that's when I was put on medication for the first time in around 2007. I was put on Adderall. And I didn't disclose my diagnosis when I entered grad school initially. And I found that I was really struggling. I was struggling to complete work where my peers, my cohort was completing work. It would take them 2 to 3 hours. For me, it was taking 8 to 9. And, just difficulty sitting down, getting things done. And it wasn't until a year after into my program that I disclosed my diagnosis, and with my Disabilities Resource Center, I was able to get special accommodations. And with that, I was really able to see that by making some modifications, by able to get, time and a half in testing, or, being able to sit by myself in a room, that like kind of what B was saying was, I learned that I operated differently. And it wasn't necessarily that I couldn't perform as well, but I definitely needed and required some special, like I said, modifications to do so. So since then, I was on medication, and I didn't get off of Adderall until I was recently starting my fertility journey before I got pregnant. So now I'm learning to live with ADHD using other coping skills like I was before, but without the supplementation of medication.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. Let's go to Brooke.
Hi. So my story is I got diagnosed with an auditory processing disorder at a young age. So I received speech services, and then was diagnosed with anxiety my whole life, in and out of therapist, had no idea what was going on with my brain. Got bullied from age 8 to 35. That's an interesting story. But I went to undergrad for elementary education, and I was bored. So it's like, I need to spice it up. So I immediately got my master's from NYU in students with disabilities, connected more, immediately became a special education teacher, thrived in the co-teaching classroom with ADHD and learning disabled students, became an assistant director of special education, and was in the school system for 15 years, working with parents, families, and students, teachers as well, with ADHD. Seen thousands of IEPs and still did not know I had ADHD at the time. I got coached by the recommendation of a friend once I moved from New York to Florida in 2017. And 6 months into it, I said, I want to be an ADHD coach, because my friend recommended it. Like, okay. And 6 months into that, after starting, I too realized I had ADHD. Passed the test with flying colors. But I never knew that I had it growing up, because I didn't identify as the children in the classroom, I identified as the adult who had difficulty switching from coaching to writing my notes, and then coaching, and then writing my notes and coaching. And then it all started to click. I got the diagnosis, I got medicated, and a lot of the tools I was already doing, I was using as well. So the medication was, for me, that missing piece. But then fast forward, I meet my husband, who was undiagnosed at the time, and his 2 kids who were undiagnosed at the time. And we're, like I said, one big diagnosed family now. And as you join a family, ADHD symptoms change, right? Change as a parent, change as a wife, change as an adult. So I'm constantly adjusting the structure of my family and my business. And I'm a certified parent coach. I work with professionals as well. And my coaches and I also work with students. So that's my story. 20 years later, here I am with an ADHD diagnosis.
Thanks, Brooke. So mine is kind of similar to some of you guys as far as I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 30s in grad school. I was raised in a family that didn't believe in it. They think that you're just lazy, you're just not focused, you're undisciplined. So when I started noticing having issues, I just heard my parents' voice saying, you're just lazy. And my master's program comes along. I'm struggling with my work and realizing that in your master's program, it doesn't slow down. Whatever you're not getting done, it just keeps piling on, which the anxiety then takes over. And finally went and saw a therapist, diagnosed with inattentive type, and then tried the medication. It really wasn't for me. So then I just started digging really deep and finding the skills and the tools and what I could use. And so I found what works for me. And like B mentioned, I like to look at it as almost a superpower. There's things about our personalities that are so unique. And if you learn how to channel them and utilize them, they can be, you can stand out for doing things a certain way that someone without ADHD, they just don't operate in that same way. So thank you for sharing your stories. Let's move on to the next question is, what concerns did you have regarding your ADHD and having children? And we'll let Brooke start with that one.
I was going to say which Brooke, but then I knew you weren't talking in third person, right? Or first person. Okay. So my concern about having children was, so I had 2 stepsons that I was a mom of, but having my daughter, I had never raised my stepsons from birth. So I said, okay, like, I'm okay that she's inside of me, but I don't know when she comes out what the heck I'm going to do. I'm running a business. I have a family. How do I operate? What do I do? How do I take care of a child? So that was the biggest thing. How do I take care of this human being? Where do I even start? What does she need? And then how am I going to manage the household and my relationship with myself as well?
Thank you for that. Stephanie?
For me, I got pregnant older. I was almost 40 when I was 39 when I had my baby, my beautiful baby. And so age was a factor as well. I'm a little bit more tired than I was when I was 25. And it's not just I had my own life to manage, but now I have another human's life to manage. That the responsibility, falls on me, on his parents. And that could be overwhelming. So, kind of just feeling overwhelmed of like, how am I going to be able to do anything? I still work full time, I have my career. So being able to like forecast, it was the anticipation as well. When I was pregnant, I had some of those same concerns, but just as in my pregnancy, I adjusted my concerns or worries before I got pregnant, and then it happened. I adjusted. I had to make some modifications in my schedule and routine, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, but Now it's, okay, I'm a mom, my baby's here. So getting into flow of, you know, again, managing 2 of our lives now. I'm responsible and it's up to me now to, you know, I'm his provider. So that was one of my concerns, how I'm going to be able to do it.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. B?
For me, it came in 2 different waves because my son, who's older, you know, he has autism, but also ADHD hyperactive. A lot of his hyperactivity symptoms were so similar to me, it was easy, right? Because I'm like, oh, I get this. You just need to move. You just need to do this. You just need to do that. So a lot of his symptoms were not perplexing to me. I think that he's the reason I wrote my first book. It's because it was like, oh, we're on this journey of sameness, right? Like it looks similar, but a little bit different. There's like a little bit of a twist here. So let me dive into this in true ADHD fashion. Like, let me dive into this. With my daughter, however, she's the one that's taught me the most because inattentive is also a different brain processing information, right? And I'm a fast processor. Everything for me is like go, 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 go. And basically, I listen to everything quickly. I walk quickly. I do everything on a rush, like the world is ending, right? That's me. But my daughter's a slow processor and my son's a fast processor as well. So we're all like in a rush to nothing. And she's taking her time. So the challenges was really more with her than it was with him in terms of parenting, because now I have someone who I don't get, right? It would be like, hey, why are you still eating that one Cheerio? Like, I'm so confused right now. Like, why are you still chewing one Cheerio? Like, she just appreciates life in a way that we're just kind of quickly trying to get through, but she's just taking her time to absorb it because she's a slow processor. So for us, it was the journey being different versus, oh, it's not just ADHD, right? There are different types. There's inattentive, which I knew, just my work, my background, my education, but living it and experiencing it brought awareness that I've never had before. Just the understanding of, oh, hyperactive, inattentive is different, combination is different. So parenting a child with ADHD inattentive, when you have, you know, hyperactivity, is a bit challenging. And I can also see how it would be challenging reverse if, you know, it was inattentive and it, you know, hyperactivity. So I can say for the parenting piece, my son, the challenges he brought or brings were more of, you know, autistic specific challenges, not the ADHD, because I understood the ADHD. I could get that. Well, with my daughter, the ADHD and attentive is a challenge because I'm still learning. I'm still learning from her. She's still teaching me. She is just, and she lets me know she's teaching me. So that's wonderful. That's just wonderful. So there's just a lot that's coming my way where I didn't plan or process or understood or knew that this is where this parenting journey would take me, but I'm enjoying it. But those are the challenges. It's more the brain differences in the same ADHD umbrella.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting how you have the 2 very different, the ADHD kids.
Yeah.
Lindsay?
So what I was most, I don't know, what I fear the most, I guess, is kind of going on right now. The emotional ups and downs. My daughter is screaming at the top of her lungs because she does not want to go to sleep. And so she's a little off schedule because I was in Colorado over the weekend. So time difference and the plane and everything. So that's where I was most nervous about, because when I get very dysregulated very easily. So I sometimes almost want to like scream back, you know, like it's like, and I have to control and, you know, like do my deep breathing and deep breathing with her. So before having her, that I guess in general, I wasn't worried really about the parenting yet, because I just didn't really think that, I thought it was going to be easy. I don't know why. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just thought like, oh, I've always wanted to be a mom. It'll just come come naturally. But yeah, I mean, I guess some things do, but a lot of things don't. Yeah, it's just she's calmed down a little bit. So I feel like my energy is calming down a little bit as we're speaking. Oh, she's starting again. So anyway, that's my answer.
Thanks. Well, with a toddler, there's going to be lots more deep breathing to come.
I know.
Yeah. So I guess for my biggest concern was, so with my son, I didn't have a concern because I didn't know I had it. And I thought that my quirks were just me, just like loving all the new hobbies and digging into them and then not wanting, not being interested in them anymore. Thought that was just me. So I worried about, with my daughter, modeling bad habits, what I considered to be bad habits. And so my son kind of got to see me in my raw, messy version of myself. And he actually has ADHD. And I do wonder how my modeling of behaviors maybe contributed to some of the things that he does and how he manages it. Now with my baby, I am very mindful of, when we're reading a story, we make sure that we finish the story and we clap that it ended. And I talked her through transitions. She doesn't really understand much, but, we're getting dressed to go to school. We're getting ready for breakfast. We're just things like that, that I feel like is creating some kind of a gentle routine with her. And she's getting used to the communication and knowing what's coming next. Another concern that I had, not so much with my son, with my baby, which I'll get more into, but the phones. I was concerned about the phones with my baby and just being really mindful of, not being like this and talking to her and her seeing me constantly on the phone. So that was something that I was really trying to be aware of with her. And like I said, I'll get a little bit more into that. But we can move on to the next one, which is, what was your biggest challenge for you once you had your children? And we'll let Stephanie start with that one.
I think maybe one of the biggest challenges is once you get through one challenge or you figure out how to manage and mitigate that challenge, the next one's right after, right? So it's a never-ending kind of thing that's going to keep happening. For me, I guess right now, just because I am a new mom, it was going back to work, and that I had a lot of anxiety and I was super emotional about. And I guess like it's begun as how am I going to get to work and get up early and do everything you have to do with the baby, go to work, come home, and then still have the energy, the mental bandwidth, the attention, the focus to be able to wash the bottles. And, if I have to do the laundry, being the tasks, the tasks, and how to be able to keep on top of them. So that was one of the things that, and I think that they keep coming with which each new step, it's going to be more tasks as she's getting older. So as he's getting older. So I think that it's just being able to manage the things that are coming my way.
Mm-hmm. Brooke, you can take it next.
Sure. So mine was similar to Stephanie, managing the bottles. I was pumping instead of she didn't take. So that was a lot of work, a lot of cleaning. But my biggest challenge was a lack of sleep. So trying to get on to some sort of schedule with my partner who wakes up to get our daughter. Luckily, that phase was only 2 months. That's really it. I mean, everything else I've learned as I have gone and joined a community of other mothers who I can share stories with and get insights from. So I feel blessed at this point. But like you said, Stephanie, it's a journey every day. You learn something new.
Thanks, Brooke. B?
Well, I'll say this. I'll speak on the late elementary, middle school years, because you guys have littles. For me, the challenges have been, it's a lot to navigate. right? Like you're referencing, there's a lot of navigating social, emotional, there's a lot of ups and downs. There are, you know, so many things like the social complexity of my daughter's friend group, I find irritating and annoying and nonsensical. But understanding that that is of great value to her. So being emotionally invested in something that I really don't care about. So these are the struggles that I currently face as a parent is, you know, if I don't like something, I just withdraw. Like if I don't like something, I'm done with this. I don't care about this. Why am I here? Where she's more invested. And there's a lot of investment and there's a lot of, I may hurt that person's feeling and I can't say this. And I'm like, but why do we care? Like what's happening right now? So understanding the personality changes that's come with it. Like when they were little, I mean, honestly, it was perfection because I had all the control, right? Like they did what I said. We only did things I wanted to do. So it was really easy. But as they've gotten older and I no longer have control, it's become challenging, you guys. Like it's the challenges are real when you no longer have control. But the parenting aspect is, you know, worrying about safety, technology, you know, worried about all the different things that they're exposed to, communities that, you know, is different from your own. Just my challenges with what I feel should not be an issue, but is an issue. So just a lot of personality conflict in terms of what that parenting looks like. Because again, when they're little, there's all these different things that you can do. And at the end of every day, there's like a big hug that we love you. Oh my gosh, I abused you, but I love you anyway. But during the late tween and early teen years, there is, I don't like you and I'm going to go to sleep not liking you. And there's no changing that. So just recognizing that it changes throughout the developmental stage. So for me, where I'm at, I love spending time with my kids. They're fun. They're my besties. Like they're literally the best humans. But personality, understanding they're their own people and they're not, you know, micro copies of myself. Therefore, and they also have some of their dads, which is a problem, but you know, we're not here for that. So there's just all these different things that has made parenting complicated, but it really has been the personality switch of understanding they're their own people, their own human, their own quirks, their own developmental stage, their own likes and dislike. And I'm controlling because I have anxiety and I have ADHD. And if it doesn't go my way, it's the wrong way. So understanding how to channel that energy in a different way to be the best version of their mom that I can be, because I'm catering to the relationship post 18, not while they need me. I'm working on the relationship of when they do not need me and are they still going to come around and be around me? So those have been the challenges.
That's a really interesting angle to look at it. I like that. Thanks, B. Lindsay.
Wow. There's so much I want to like reflect on that you just shared. But yeah, that was very interesting. I think it's so something I left out, I guess, before is like the modeling bad behaviors I fear a lot of. And something interesting that you said, B, is that like they did what you wanted as baby. Well, my daughter is already like actually a spitting image of what I imagined I was like as a little baby, and not doing what I wanted to already. When we're in like any kind of class situation, like she's not like, it's not like she's disobeying totally, but she's definitely full on toddler, terrible to 100% already. She has been since I think 12 months. And in any class where she's supposed to sit down and all the other babies are kind of in story time or whatever they're supposed to be doing, she's off dancing and like, hi, here, everyone look at me, everyone look at me. I'm over here doing some kind of, I don't know, whatever trick or whatever nonsense she's doing. But she will like obey but she has to be on her time. Yeah. So I do feel a little bit that she has possibilities of ADHD, but it's really early. But it's hard to see so much of myself in her, although she looks nothing like me, which is also the interesting part too. But to see so much of her in me and be like, okay, now what do I do? Like, how do I like make sure with the transitions, I need to get better at that. Time is like my worst enemy and my best friend, right? So I am always late my whole life. And like there's just always something that like comes up. It's like, even though I need like 3 hours to do like the littlest thing. And then if I'm early, wonderful. But if I don't have that maybe 3 hours to do the littlest task of it, then all of a sudden I'm rushing like crazy. And then it takes me 3 hours anyway. Whereas like, if I just like, I have to get up extra early because now it's just not me, it's baby. So it's Reagan. So it's, and that's unpredictable. So that's been a huge challenge of figuring out how to get my self-care in and how to, and showering at the beginning was, like it happens here and there. But yeah, now I'm really trying to work on doing some, but she's teething again. So now her sleep schedule is off again. And so it's just been, a little bit challenging. That's.
Can I say this, Lindsay? So something that I do with my moms, because inattentive is predominantly the female type. It's not exclusively, but it is predominantly the female type. Hyperactive is predominantly the male kind. Again, so I actually teach women how to behave hyperactive as opposed to inattentive, because the inattentive response does make everything feel overwhelming and hard and difficult. And then there is a shame and embarrassment where your description of what your toddler is doing is what my son used to do, only he was also licking the floors. Your daughter's ahead. Like there's more happening with her. She's advanced. So like my son was literally licking the floors, and I was like, I guess that's what he wants to do today. He's just licking floors, where it was this dismissal of the behavior of like, I can't take this on. Like, I'm not going to take on you licking floors because I didn't lick any floors. And that's just your thing. But releasing that, like just releasing it and understanding that that's just where you're at right now. But she'll have something new in 2 months. Don't worry. Something new is coming.
Yeah. But it's also managing all my friends' babies too, and feeling like, okay, well, so now they're teaching her other habits that I'm like, oh. Plus, I have the role of mom and dad, sort of. So, and I have hyperactivity and inattentive. So I've got the male and the feminine, and I'm like, ah. Yeah. So thank you. That was really helpful.
Lindsay, you mentioned something that reminded me of a meme that I saw that said, I have a doctor's appointment today, so it looks like I won't be doing anything other than that.
Oh, that is what I do. that is literally it. I have a doctor's appointment, then there's nothing else that can happen. I mean, even when I was growing up, if I had a test, I didn't go to school that day because I had one test. So like, I needed to make sure that I had the whole day, the whole morning to prep for it, or if I took the test, I'd go right home afterwards. Anyway.
But I'll reflect on this one with my son, something that we both struggle with, because I'm doing much better with my daughter. The time blindness with my son, if I tell him, can you do the dishes? I have to give him a time. There has to be, can you have them done by 5 p.m.? Can you have it? Because otherwise it's pushed off and it's pushed off. And then what I used to forget. So then he learned that if we don't agree on a time, I forgot, and now it's 10 p.m. the dishes aren't done, I'm doing them. So this is something that I had to learn with him, that if it's, I need you to clean your room, we have to have a time that it's done. And then of course he did it the minute before that time. So if I asked him to have it done by 6 p.m., by 5:59, he's starting to do his room, but it gave him an idea of when to get started and when I was coming to check. But that was a struggle with him, and he's still doing that, and he's 18. So it's a struggle. But moving on to the next one is, did you have any tricks to help you manage your new role? And we can start with Lindsay on that one.
Okay, so do I have any tricks? I mean, schedules, routines, trying to prep the night before. I don't know, I guess what we all probably do. Routines, I mean, I definitely realized very early on that I'm actually very similar to your son, where like I need someone to tell me, okay, be here, be whatever, do whatever by this time. And then also know that like, if you tell me an hour early before you actually want me to be ready, that's probably when it will really make sense for. But like in terms of cleaning my room or something like that, as a kid, like I'd do it just a minute before I needed to be done. But if I, with like planning and schedules, I feel like the routines are just so important with a baby. And I just haven't grown up from that. I need to follow this routine. Like if I follow, someone gives me an exact routine to follow, I'm really good at that. Like really, really good at it. And I can excel at it and make it even better than ever before if I like know exactly what I need to do, the steps exactly that need to take place. So that's where I feel like if she's off her routine, it totally makes sense that like, of course, she's not going to be in the right, it's going to throw me off essentially. And so that's where we're both working together because can't always have routines perfect. So yeah, routine schedules. Oh, and I set like timers, like alarms kind of too for myself.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go to Brooke.
Really just managing my expectations of myself. So letting go of the productivity that I had before giving birth and allowing other people as well to volunteer their time with our daughter and sharing responsibilities and not feeling like I have to do everything. So that has been huge. Focusing my time on the things that are important, and also with the boundaries of, let's say, Brielle had her morning routine, giving that time up and planning it ahead of time so I could exercise during that time, so I could at least try to get something in for myself in the morning or throughout the day. So managing expectations.
A good one. Thanks. Stephanie?
So for me, what I've been doing is obviously there's things we all have to get done every week, things that we don't really like doing, chores. When I first returned to work, I was kind of leaving Sundays to do it. And that became really overwhelming because it was laundry, my laundry, the baby's laundry, putting everything away. It was overwhelming. And then I was getting to the end of the day and I wasn't able to spend as much quality time with my son that I really wanted. And that would leave me going into the work week, then not feeling great, you know, because then I was sad and anxious the next day. So what I started doing was breaking up my tasks, spreading them out during the week, and even just donating, you know, dedicating, you know, maybe a half an hour to 45 minutes each day to doing something. So maybe I've started to at least do the laundry on Thursday so that I can put away maybe mine on Friday and his on Saturday, you know, so it doesn't seem so overwhelming, but yet I'm still able to enjoy my time that I do have off as well. Another thing is when I am the self-accountability, honing the self-accountability. So if I have, there's a number of things, you know, and then there's task paralysis. Well, I will say, okay, you know what, I'll do 3 things that I really don't want to do. And then once I do those 3 things, I can get a break, or, you know, I can then relax for the rest of the night or whatever it is. So holding myself accountable to those 3 things, managing them more easily and getting them done. And even in my work day, you know, just sitting and writing notes could be daunting. So again, Lindsay said about timers, you know, I could say, let me sit here and for this amount of time or finish this task. And then I call it my therapeutic loop where I do a walk around the block. And that gives me time to reset. I come back, you know, I've cleared my head a little bit and I'm ready to start going. So just finding these little moments of breaks to reset your mental energy as well helps a lot.
Thanks, Stephanie. And B?
For me, I have 2 things. I have AI and rituals. I love my AIs. You know, I cannot live without them because they are my assistants in all sorts of ways, with timers, with, you know, reminding me, with pinging me on things, and just they're constantly talking to me and engaging with us because we are a very technology friendly home. but it can also be the thing that distracts us and pull us away. So I utilize it. So, like I do not allow anything to automatically play, like no Netflix automatically go to the next thing, because if it does, I'm binging. That's what's happening. Like there's nothing else happening but that. So like I use it to understand, like if I sit here and it's like, are you still watching? Of course I'm still watching. It's only been 12 hours. Like, what are we doing here? So like I use AI to keep me in terms of like being on task. Rituals is my other thing. I love rituals, which it's the same thing as having a routine. I like, every morning I have my making tea ritual. I have, water my plant ritual. I have, checking on, if things were put away ritual. Like I have ritualistic behaviors that give me a sense of calmness and control. And these things happen to help me a lot when managing a lot of my symptoms, because I maintain these rituals on vacation, traveling, wherever we go. We recently, we were traveling abroad, and it was like 9:45 when the sun was going down. 7 o'clock, I'm like, bedtime. I am like shutting down the windows, like closing down drapes, making the room dark, because I'm so attached to my rituals. I'm like, we're not sleeping at 9. Like that's not going to happen. So I'm attached to my rituals, which really, a tired brain, a fatigued brain is the worst for ADHD. So I'm so focused on maintaining a happy, healthy brain, which is my thing, is neuroscience of, neurodiversity. Like I'm really focused on, I need to know my brain is getting what it needs in order for it to be at its optimal best. And because I have a neurodivergent home, your brain is going to be at its optimal because I'm going to give it what it needs as well. So I do that through rituals and through AI. Like everything shuts down at like 7:30 at my house. So television's like, you can't watch us today. It's the end of the day, because I will forget about it. I will start a task like, I don't know, gardening at 7 p.m. That makes sense, right? And just forget what needs to happen. And now my kids are up till midnight because I'm outside gardening and I forgot what I needed to do. So I use things around me to help me execute tasks that, I'm not so great at. I'm just kind of failing at them a little bit. So I just use AI and my rituals to lift me up.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So for me, I know I mentioned the phone earlier. So something that I do with the phone is we have a no phone at the dinner table rule, because my husband is attached to the phone, my son is attached to the phone. So there's no phones even within reach. And then I'm very mindful of, if my baby's around, if she brings me a book, the phone goes down immediately, or if we're playing, the phone is not allowed to be out. I just don't want her associating, this is what we do. We have to hang on to this phone. And then there's the eye contact and all of that. So that's something that I'm extremely strict about. And then as far as something that's really helped me is just speaking out loud to my husband and just saying, I need you to let me sleep this weekend. I have to get some sleep. I need to leave the house and go do some work at Starbucks for school, or it won't get done. And he will actually hold me to that. He'll say, if the day's kind of moving along, he'll be like, are you going to go to Barnes and Noble or whatever? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm going. And sometimes I need that push to actually stick with my plan. But those are things that have really helped me as far as just with managing, juggling the household and the kids. So we'll move on to the last question. If a parent with ADHD could take away one helpful message from this webinar, what would it be? And we'll start with Brooke on that one.
Parent the child you have. Your child's not like your neighbor's child and vice versa. So parent the child you have and meet them where they are.
I love that. So it's like not comparing, your child is your child. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah, I guess kind of, to what Brooke said, acceptance, every child is unique and individual, meeting them where they're at, what their needs are, to avoid comparisons and also to avoid the word perfect, and just embracing who they are as an individual, and finding their needs, and like I said, meeting them where they're at, being able to meet their needs and what they need to do to thrive and be successful.
Nice, thank you. Lindsay?
So I would piggyback on all of that and say that also that allowing for mistakes, knowing that of course they're going to happen, and being okay with that, and knowing that the process of parenthood is not like anything else ever. It's completely different and new, and every single day will be a different journey, adventure, and embrace it with curiosity as well as grace and kindness and acceptance.
Mm-hmm. I love approach with curiosity. I think that's really nice. Yeah. Thanks.
That's how kids approach things, right? So yeah.
It's true. Yeah. B?
You're not alone. You're not alone. Like, you are not alone on this journey. You're not alone with the struggles that you're having or experiencing. Just because other parents or families are not, or moms are not talking about it, it doesn't mean that they're not experiencing it. We all have different ways of coping with the exact same situation. So you're not alone. Honestly, if you were alone, Brooke and I would not have a job. Like, we wouldn't. That's just the reality. Like, you're not alone. So because I know that, it makes it a lot easier to understand and not feel so isolated, and it doesn't feel like an island. It's more like, okay, I haven't found, you just haven't found your tribe. Mm-hmm. Or your people or your person, because sometimes it's not necessarily a group of individuals. Sometimes it's just one other person that you can connect with. So you are not alone. While statistically it's 20% of the population that is neurodivergent, I do not believe that is true at all. I think that is a lie. So you're not alone. Find your people, find your person, but know that you're not struggling alone. You're not alone.
Can I just share something to that stat?
Mm.
So there's this new research from UPenn, and 72.3% of people in the workplace have an invisible disability.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that the majority of it is neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. So the neurotypical, of course, is the minority.
Yeah.
Which is so fascinating.
I'd say it should no longer be called typical, because it's not.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. I think you guys said it all. I would kind of just say, don't be afraid to ask for help and find your supports. Support is everything. So, I guess now we'll see what questions Mike has for us.
All right. So our first question, is, can you please talk more about strategies that you have tried and learned from in your experience?
Okay. We give this one to Brooke.
Sure. Something that I'm working on now is coming from a place of being emotionally regulated when I am engaging with my spouse and my kids. And if I'm recognizing, someone mentioned somatic, if I'm recognizing my body getting into shutdown mode or triggered, I'm just saying, I need to take 5. And then I come back, or I have a safe word. And it's seriously, it helps in days of days missed with being present with your kids and your spouse because of, tension. So just making sure I come from a place of feeling calm and regulated. And also, I did want to just share on that note, I do have a masterclass coming up for students who are going back to school. So if parents want to attend for free, I'll put the link in the chat, but me and my team are running a webinar on preparing your child, organizing them, making sure that they start the school year off with success.
Nice.
That's incredible. Thanks, Brooke.
All right. And then our next question. When there are multiple children with ADHD, what advice would you have for getting everyone to respect each other's needs and differing ADHD traits?
I think we have to give that to B. It was written for you.
This one is written for me. So the number one thing is education, because they have to understand that they function differently and that they have different brain capacities. You know, I think when I was first writing my book and it was all about Jake, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to write about Jake. And then Abby came along and it was like, oh, wait, I guess I have to include her too, to a certain capacity, because they just had such different ways. The way I educated both of them, but mostly Abby, so she didn't feel like she was in the shadow of Jake, it was, okay, this family, we have MacBook, and then we have, you know, Microsoft. We have Windows. Not one is better than the other. Not one is, you know, more elite or anything like that. They're just different operating systems. And it actually works out well, that analogy, because my husband's a CPA and he hates the MacBook. He hates it. He prefers Windows. He likes using Windows and everything about it. So it's more of, Daddy prefers Windows, I prefer the MacBook. And the reason is they just do different things. But in order for me to utilize the window, I need to know how Microsoft works. Like, I need to know how it works. Otherwise, I'm just going to be looking for Safari, and there is no Safari, right? I have to know that there's Google there, and vice versa. If you're trying to figure out how a MacBook works and you're looking for Google, there is no Google. Safari is your search engine. You have to utilize that. So understanding that that's the place I came from in terms of educating my kids, of like, listen, which one are you? And understanding that the other person is not the exact thing. And life is boring if it's just one thing. And life is hard if it's just one thing. We need diversity in the minds. Like, we need people to be different and offer different perspective on solving the exact same problem. So really, education is the key. Trying to force siblings to like the other one just based on love, that's not going to cut it. Like, that's not going to happen. They need to understand and be educated on why that person is different. Even though they have the same genetic pool, it doesn't matter. They still have different operating systems. So whether you're a MacBook or whether you're a Windows, you know, they're both fantastic. I use Windows when needed, and my husband uses MacBook when he feels like it. So it's a matter of understanding these differences are a gift and teaching that to your children as opposed to forcing them to. So start with the education piece. And it takes years of it. My kids are now 11 and 12. They understand very well. You know, sometimes they'll say the MacBook's broken. Windows not working today. It's basically they're not listening to each other. That's their key word. But it's like, well, it's time to reset. We got to reboot. You know, we got to start over again. And they understand what that means as well. So education is really the way to start to lead into respect. But that's where you start, is the education piece.
Thanks, B.
All right, we have time for one more question. And that question is, what is one common misconception about motherhood and ADHD?
Common misconception. Lindsay, would you like to? No.
I'm trying to think out loud, like misconception. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what. Go ahead.
I do have one. I think for me is what moms come to me with is, am I lazy?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's huge.
That's the one they come to me with. It's like, why can't I do all the things? Am I lazy? Or why was I able to do it before and now I can't do it? And it's, am I lazy? And it's, no, you're not. You are not juggling 50 different things for 50 different people before motherhood. You weren't doing that. You were just managing you. And now that you're managing you, because it's not just your dentist appointment, it's your child dentist appointment and how it interact with the school scheduling and how that interacts with your work scheduling and how the availability exists for you and who's going to take them there and how much of the time that you need to do in between. And then do you need a note to get back to the doctor from? It's all of that, where before it was, I need to go, I will come back during my lunch, then I'll go back to work, the end. So that's what makes it complicated. It's all the different tasks that now exist within one task.
Mm-hmm. I've also seen some mothers who they think they're struggling with depression and they're actually totally overwhelmed and task paralysis is set in and they just feel like they can't manage. So that's a big one too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I add one more thing?
Yes,
To the late, kind of touching on the laziness thing is being careful of looking at the superhero posts on social media or the YouTube shorts, you know, like the things of, you know, moms getting things done and it's just like, wow, that's never going to be me. I'm lucky I brushed my teeth today and I showered 2 days. You know what I'm saying? So just being careful that there are so many women out there like us and women, you know, men, women, parents, and that it's not just what's depicted on in social media. Give yourself grace, give yourself understanding, and give yourself acceptance.
Mm-hmm. And social media is not real.
Yeah.
It's
There's no one there is not real.
I like the actual social media post or the Instagram post where people are like, okay, what I thought mom life would be like and what it really is like. And also, or you'll see like what Instagram mom like is life and what reality mom life is like. And it's like absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. It was nice seeing everybody again and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.